All right, so way, way, way back at the beginning of time, when the earth was new and the people were not yet fully baked, a little bit crispy on the outside, but still quite soft and squidgy in the middle, truth would walk the earth. Truth would walk from town to village, and truth would go and tell people the truth. Truth would go and tell people all of the things that were happening as they happened and exactly what they were. And you could tell who truth was when truth came into your town or village, for truth had an amazing outfit. Oh, truth had these fine, somber, priest-like robes. Oh, the garb of truth. It was breathtaking. Your eyes were drawn to it. It was a sight to see truth walking through your town, and people would come and gather at the edges of their doors and at the corners of streets, and they would listen with hushed reverence as truth declaimed what was happening in the world as it happened and what it was exactly. And that was truth's job. Like I say, the world was new. Truth would go through and let everybody know what was happening. And on one particular day, when truth was walking between two villages, they were going through a fine field with a river running by not too far, and they found themselves walking alongside an individual in ramshackle clothing, everything a little bit mismatched, not quite fitting, worn through at the elbows, dirty shoes with tongues at the front. And this individual came shuffling alongside truth and said, "Gah, what a miserable day it is today." And truth looked up, and the sun was shining brightly, and the clouds were drifting through the sky like a Renaissance painting. "Oh, this is an awful day, isn't it? Really rubbish this day, God." And truth went, "Who on earth are you?" And the individual reached out a grubby hand with dirt underneath their fingernails and said, "Ah, it's not a pleasure to meet you. My name is Lie." And Truth and Lie shook hands, and Truth said, "You are the strangest person I've ever met." And Lie said, "Well, I mean, I don't suppose that you'd even deign somebody as high and mighty as you to, go for a walk through the fields with me, see what there is to see. I'm sure it's really boring." And Truth was slowly starting to cotton on and said, "Well, why not? I've visited many places today. I've done good work. I can allow myself a bit of afternoon time wandering through the fields with an individual such as you." So Truth and the Lie made their way walking through the fields. And just as Lie had not said, these fields were lovely. There were beautiful butterflies through the air, and the scent of pollen on the breeze was intoxicating. And as they made their way into a little abandoned farmyard, Lie said, "Man, and I bet you definitely don't want to share a picnic with me. Ugh, I mean, my picnics are the worst, I'll tell you that right now." And Truth said, I think I might like to share a picnic. That sounds delightful." So the two of them sat down together, and they laid out their picnic, and the wine was uncorked, and after a few glasses had been drunk, Truth was going, "You know what, you're great, actually. Oh, we never met before. This is the most fun I've had in a long time." And Lie looked over at Truth and said, "You know what? I'd imagine that you're not in the mood at all for like a nice, cool, refreshing dip in some sparkling water not too far away from here." And Truth went, "That sounds amazing. I'd really like that. Yes, let's go for a swim somewhere. There must be somewhere. Come on, it's the summer." So off went Truth and the Lie. And in this abandoned farmyard, they found a little shallow well, just perfect for paddling in and splashing about. And so Lie kicked off their boots with the holes in the front, and they took off their grubby trousers and their wholly misshapen jacket and slid down their little white Y fronts and they climbed into the well and went, oh, you're going to hate it. It's really horrible in here. Oh, I wouldn't want to be in here. And Truth went, I can't wait. You just try and stop me. And so Truth took off the great somber glowing robes and left them in a heap in the dust and climbed into the well. Oh, this is the best. Oh, what a wonderful day. You are a true friend, Lie. And Lie grinned a wide grin with too many teeth. And Lie reached over with both hands and pushed Truth under the water. And they gulped and scrabbled for air. And by the time they had come to their senses and their head had broken above the water, they looked to see that Lie was climbing over the wall of the well and had picked up the garments of Truth and scarpered. Well, Truth had been left completely without anything to cover themselves with. And it was getting on in the day, and they had to be at their next village. Well, thought Truth, my job is a very important one, and it shouldn't matter the fact that I'm in this state of distress. The things that I have to say are much more important than me as an individual. I will go to the village and I will do my job and people will listen to what I have to say and I'll work something out on the way. And so Truth made their way to the next village, trailing water with all of their bits dangling in the breeze. And as they made their way to the edge of the village, they were used to people coming and gathering in quiet reverence at the edge of their doors, at the corners of the streets, and now people were gawping. Children were pointing and their eyes were being covered by their parents as Truth walked through the town and tried to tell people what was happening as it was and exactly what it was. Everybody just kept looking down at all of the dangling, wiggly, squiggly bits, and then they closed their doors, they closed their windows, they started writing angry letters to the council about what was decent for young children to see. Nobody could bear to see the naked Truth. And Truth made their way as best as they could from town to village, getting more and more despondent until finally they said, this is awful, this is terrible. I need to step away from this and find out what I can do. And so they made their way to go and visit their sister. And their sister's name was Story. And they came to Story's house, and Story's house had a ridiculously elaborate wrought iron gate. Everything looked like curving vines, and there were little animals decorated in all of the gaps. And through the gate you came into a beautiful orchard with fruits that glistened like jewels in all of the trees. And when you came to the house, there was this wonderful sweep of thatch coming down golden in the sunlight. And there on the porch was Story. Story in a great swathe of multicoloured cloth. Story with shoes that had bells on the end of them and a marvellous hat with a great big feathered plume and ribbons and bells and rings and bangles. The whole package was Story. And Story jumped up and said, Truth! Truth, what on earth has happened? Come in, goodness me, who has done this to you? And Truth explained to Story the whole sorry tale. And Story listened and poured out chai tea and brought out gingerbread biscuits and said, I think I know what we can do. Clearly, there's no chance if you go out and carry on the way that you are, that anybody's going to listen to you. And what you do is so important. And it seems so silly that you should put yourself at this disadvantage when I have so many clothes that you could borrow. And Story took Truth's hand and went through to the great big walk-in wardrobe. There was so much here. There were shoes and dresses and shirts and, oh, everything that you could imagine. And Truth looked in and went, I'm so terribly sorry, Story. I mean, I know this is very much your thing, and you're an artist, and you're making that work. That's good for you, but I can't wear anything like this. No one will take me seriously. No offence, but I would look like a clown. And Story went, you have no choice. Look, come on, let me find you something nice. And so they had a look through, and eventually Story found a purple silk shirt with fine gold buttons that Truth could agree to wear, although they were a little bit puffy in the sleeves. And then they found a nice pair of green and red striped trousers, which they fit, even if Truth thought that they did look absolutely ridiculous, and it wasn't even Christmas yet. What was this all about? And then they found some silver high heel shoes, and Truth was suddenly 3 inches taller, going, wow, is this how people see the world from up here? This is amazing. And they found a pirate hat and a multicolored feather to put in the back, and Truth was quite enjoying themselves at this point. And Story made sure that there were ribbons tied in Truth's hair, and that there were earrings and bangles and rings and everything that clinked and clanked and made a noise as Truth walked. And Truth left, going, I really don't know if I'm going to pull this off. And Story went, do your circuit, come back and tell me what happened. The worst thing that could happen is you're in the same position as you were before. And Truth went, all right, I'll give it a go. So off Truth went out into the wide world. And the seasons passed. And a year passed, and then Story, out on her porch, saw a gaudily dressed individual clinking and clanking and making their way towards her house, and she jumped up, Truth, how are you? How has it been going around the world? And Truth came in and sat down over a cup of tea and some ginger biscuits and said, you won't believe it. It's unreal. I mean, people used to always come and give me good respect while I was in my fine garb before, but now... when I turn up in villages and towns, it's like the circus has arrived. The children come and sit at my feet. The grown-ups prepare great feasts and banquets around me like I'm an event. I'm still saying exactly the same stuff that I said before, but dressed like this, suddenly people are taking it into their hearts in a way that they never did before. And so it was, and so it is, that even to this day, you may see the figure of the lie dressed in the fine and sombre robes of Truth, and they may still lead people astray. But you will always find Truth, if you need it, decked in the garb of Story. Thank you very much, everybody.